Good afternoon and welcome to a special edition of Nevada County Interviews. My name is Shelby Caro and I will be your host for today's show. We have a special show today as we will be discussing the dangers of distracted driving and talking about how Nevada County students are working together on their senior projects to produce an assembly at Bear River High School to showcase how talking or texting on your cell phone while driving can lead to tragedy. I have been interning here at NCTV as part of my senior project on broadcast journalism and have had an incredible experience. I would like to express my gratitude to the staff of NCTV for this incredible opportunity to discuss such an important topic. We also have with us Bear River teacher and senior project coordinator Jeff Caro, who will discuss the components, requirements, topics, and history of the senior project. He is also my father, and we look forward to hearing about the projects from him. Welcome, Mr. Caro.
Thank you.
Our other guests include Bear River senior Katie Blashford, who is doing her senior project on being an event coordinator, and will be co-producing the Distracted Driving Assembly. Thanks for being here today, Katie. We have Chelsea Blancardi, who is also doing her senior project, helping to coordinate the assembly, and is working with the CHP focusing on safety issues facing today's drivers. Her father and stepmother are both CHP officers, and she will be sharing her experiences with us today. Nice to have you here, Chelsea. Finally, we have special guest Nate Rogers from Bitney College Prep High School. Nate helped produce a similar assembly for Nevada Union last year. He will provide emotional insight as his father, Jim Rogers, was killed 2 years ago while riding his bicycle on Highway 174 by a driver who was talking on her cell phone. Nate, thank you so much for helping us with our senior projects and for being on the show today with us to share your story.
Of course.
Let's begin by getting some background on the senior projects at Bear River from Jeff Caro. How long have you been the senior project coordinator, Jeff?
Well, let's see. I've been senior project coordinator for about 8 years now. I was a government teacher, am a government teacher, and I helped to teach them for 3 or 4 years prior to that, and then became the coordinator in the year 2005.
And when did Bear River first begin the senior projects?
I did a little research on that today, and it turns out that Bear River's been doing the senior projects for 18 years. So it's been a big part of the Bear River curriculum for that long of a time.
And what is the purpose of the senior projects?
Well, there's lots of purposes for the senior project, but the main purpose is to provide a career pathway for students. It's a career exploration project is what it's really all about. The students get a chance to choose a career that they may be interested in, explore it through internships and job shadowing, research, etc., and make a decision on whether that career is right for them or not before they go on to college in the next phase of their lives.
And what are the various requirements for the senior project?
It's a year-long project, so there are quite a few requirements. The first requirement, of course, is to choose a topic. And once they've chosen a topic, we ask the seniors to do quite a bit of research on the topic and produce what we call a career research pamphlet. After that, the seniors are required to do a college application essay. They also produce a resume and cover letter and take part in a very serious mock interview. That is an interview where we get community members into the school and seniors sit down and partake in about a 10-minute practice interview about their real lives and real accomplishments. After that, the most seniors tend to go into the hours, the job shadow and fieldwork hours, as we call them. Those hours take place in many different ways. Most seniors get their hours through interning at a place of business. They job shadow an internship with a mentor in a business of their choosing with their topic. You can also get hours taking college classes, producing a product. You can get hours visiting colleges, doing community service. So there's a wide variety of ways in which they can get their hours. But the most important way most seniors get their hours is through the job shadow and internship. After that, they produce what we call a process journal. I like to refer to that as kind of a scrapbook-like binder that is an entire visual and written record of their senior project experience. In this binder, the process journal, are 10 journal entries, a fieldwork log of all their hours, contact forms that are signed by their mentors verifying their hours. There are 10 pages required of visual evidence that would include photos and business cards from their job shadowing and internship location. And they put that all in a binder, and it's a very large, about 30-page process journal. And finally, of course, the senior projects culminate with the presentation. The final presentation, the last big hurdle for our seniors, takes place in late May, and it involves a 7 to 12-minute speech before a panel of community members, judges, that describes their entire senior project experience and what they got out of it. They answer questions. Once that's done, it's the end of the senior project, and it's almost like a great celebration that happens among the entire senior class. So that's the senior project from start to finish. It is a year-long set of requirements.
And what roles do community members play in the senior project?
Boy, the community members are a big part of the team with the senior projects. Of course, just coming up next week are the mock interviews, and that's where I'm going to have about 40 volunteers from the community, different periods throughout the day. They're going to help us interview the seniors for the practice interview. And then at the end of the year for the presentations, I probably need around 150 volunteers altogether. I have individuals who have been helping me my entire time as the coordinator. I have a friend, Julie Austin, with the Nevada County South Rotary Club. I can email her a sign-up sheet, and she takes it to her club and fills up so many spaces you can't imagine. The people there have been involved with it for years, and they have a very close connection to Bear River. And I get help from other clubs, the Lion Club and the Kiwanis clubs. I have people who are just parents and who want to get involved and get in touch with me, and they've been helping me for years. I have this really nice core group. I couldn't do the senior projects without the community help.
Well, thank you for shedding some light on the senior project. Let's turn our attention to Nate Rogers and find out why we should all put away our cell phones and stay focused while we are driving. Hi, Nate. How are you today?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm good. Why don't you tell us about your dad? He was quite a serious bike rider, right?
Yeah, he was a really serious bike rider. He's been doing the Nevada City Classic pretty much ever since it started, because when he was about in 8th grade or about middle school, he started the Tour of Nevada City Bicycle Shop. And he was quite a serious bike rider until me, pretty much. And yeah, he rode with Greg LeMond, who was a really famous rider. He did tons and tons and tons of really popular rides, and he was a really great dad. I miss him.
And what happened to your dad back in January of 2010?
On January 31st, 2010, my father was riding his bike along Highway 174 towards Colfax, and a woman was talking on her phone and didn't see him and struck and killed him.
Now, Jeff, you are a pretty serious bike rider as well. What was your reaction when you heard about Jim's tragedy?
Well, yes, I love riding my bike all around Nevada County, and it's kind of an interesting story. And on that very day that this occurred, I was out on my bike. It was a Sunday, January 31st. I remember it, of course, afterward. I was riding through Dog Bar and out Lodestar roads, and thinking to myself just how beautiful it was. I was really having an incredibly special bike ride that day. There was all this mist in the air from the frost that was sort of evaporating from the sun, and I was enjoying the beauty of Nevada County like I always do on my bike, and kind of saying to myself, this is why I ride. I wasn't the serious racer that Nate's dad was, but I'm just sort of a recreator that loves to go out and see all the sights there are. I pick up the paper the next day and read about Jim Rogers, and it hit me really hard, of course. It's kind of a family. Even though I didn't know him personally, there's sort of a community of bike riders that really are based around the bike shop, Tour of Nevada City Bike Shop, and I know the people there, the Strausers, and I knew that he had a deep connection with many of the local cyclists, and it causes you to think about your own mortality and safety out there. And I did a lot of soul searching and felt really bad, of course, as a father and a husband, thinking about Jim's family and how that would affect them and the tragedy. And it really bummed me out, to tell you the truth. I really thought about it for a long time.
So Nate, after some time went by, how did you decide to get involved with distracted driving education?
Well, I was thinking about it, and I was like, this is a thing that not many people know is as bad as it really is. And so if I can educate people and hopefully save lives, I think that would be good. And so then Krista Baker of Nevada Union and I and my mom just did it, and it turned out great.
So tell us about how you set up for the assembly at Nevada Union.
So we got all together, and then so we coordinated all the experiments that we do, and then we talked to NU and got it all figured out, picked dates, and it happened.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. So Chelsea, why did you decide to get involved with the distracted driving assembly?
Okay, well, all of my family is involved with CHP. My dad's an officer, my stepmom's an officer, my mom's boyfriend is a pilot. So I knew that, CHP is a big part of my life. So I decided that I wanted to do that for my senior project. And then Mr. Caro came to me and told me about the assembly and asked me if I'd be interested in doing it. And it definitely has a lot to do with CHP because they're trying to make sure that people know that distracted driving is really dangerous. So I thought that it would be really good to get involved with it so that I could maybe help save lives.
Excellent. Does your dad ever share stories about what happens when he's on patrol?
He does, and he actually just recently told me a story about how this lady was driving and the lady in front of her was swerving along on the road, and so she called the CHP and said, I think there's a drunk driver in front of me. And the car in front of her ended up getting into a crash, and the driver's phone was found on the passenger seat of the car, and it was talking about the car in front of her, meaning she was texting while she was driving and then got into a crash.
Wow. So what are some things that your stepmom does as the local CHP community liaison?
She's kind of like the public relations for the CHP. So she makes radio appearances and talks to the community about what's going on within the office, and talks about important matters the CHP needs to deal with. So she's kind of like the voice of the office. And she also coordinates stuff with the high school, with local high schools like this, and every 15 minutes, which is an anti-drunk driving assembly.
Excellent. So Katie, tell us about how you first got involved with this assembly.
Well, being a senior, I knew I was going to have to do the senior project, and I was kind of leaning towards event coordination, but I wasn't really sure what I would do with that because I really wanted to do something that would be worthwhile and give me a lot of experience in whatever field I was doing. So then when Mr. Caro told me about this distracted driving assembly, I knew right away that I should get involved. That way I could really make a big impact and help save people.
And what are some steps left to get ready for the assembly of Air River?
Well, we have a lot left. We've gotten the big parts taken out, but we still have to make a lot of coordinating left to do the assembly, and we're going to do an assembly run-through, and then we'll have the assembly, of course, itself, which is on January 25th, if anyone would like to attend. And we just have a lot of left to do to make sure the assembly runs smoothly and has the most impact that it can.
What do you think is the best part of completing your senior project?
I'm actually really glad to be doing the senior project because it's going to give me a lot of in-the-field experience for things that I'm going to have to do all the time in my life, like interviews and making resumes and things that I'll have to do for the rest of my life. So it's really helpful.
Jeff, what are some other popular topics that students choose?
Okay, well, yes, topics. I said the other day that I think I could do this differently. Every time I list topics, they could come off differently. Almost any career you could imagine could be used as a senior project topic. A lot of people do careers and topics in healthcare. We have people do nursing. I've had emergency room surgeons. They job shadow with those. I had last year a girl that job shadowed with an emergency flight care helicopter, CalStar. There are physical therapy is really popular. A lot of athletes actually do physical therapy because of injuries they see or they suffer. We have quite a few students that go into education fields. They work with a former teacher of theirs, and they see what the behind-the-scenes job is for teachers getting prepared for their classes and lesson planning. We have students that work with their hands a lot and do vocational skills such as welding. We have a whole bunch of people that do auto tech. We have auto repair, auto body repair. Just about any career you could think of could be done for their senior project. So I've seen it all. It's been great. What a great variety.
And what advice do you give students when they're choosing a topic?
Well, for sure, the most important advice that I give students when they're thinking of their topic is to choose something they really care about, something they're passionate about. And if they do that, even if they discover later that the career might not be the perfect one for them, which is perfectly fine, that's why it's a career exploration. We just really emphasize that it's something they should want to explore. Of course, some seniors try to go the easy route and choose topics that they think they can get through easily. You can kind of tell when a student chooses something they really care about and are passionate about. You can see them come to life. You can see it in their projects. You can see it in their posters and their pamphlet. You can see it in their speech. And I guess that's the number one advice. Try to really explore something you care about and are curious about.
All right, thank you. So in order to get ready for the assembly, we decided it would be important to interview Bear River students about their driving habits. The interviews took place during lunch on the Bear River campus. With help from Bear River film producer Cameron Billingham, we have the film from those interviews. Hi, I'm Shelby Caro, and I'm here at Bear River High School asking random Bear River students whether or not they text and drive and what their feelings are on texting while driving. What's your name and what grade are you?
Kendall Nielsen, I'm a senior.
All right, do you ever text and drive, and if you do, how often?
Sometimes I text and drive at stop signs if I think it's really important, but I try to not do it too often.
And does anything scary ever happen to you while you were texting and driving?
I think one time I got in a close call rear-ending someone, but luckily it didn't happen.
Well, thank you. What is your name and what grade are you in?
Allison King, and I'm a senior.
And do you ever text while driving?
I have a few times, yes.
And has anything scary ever happened to you while you were texting?
Yeah, one time I went up on a curve and I almost hit a tree, and it was kind of scary, but I was fine, thankfully.
All right, thank you.
My name is Sam Aguilar, and I'm a senior.
And do you ever text while driving?
I plead the fifth. Okay, admittedly, every once in a while I do.
And has anything scary ever happened to you while you were texting?
Not while I was texting. I don't need to text to have experiences while driving.
All right, thank you.
This is Josh Toft.
Hey, this is Marissa Vardy.
He is a senior.
She's a senior.
And do you guys ever text while driving?
Well, actually, on the new Droids and the iPhone 4S, there's this thing where you can talk into the phone and it'll send the message that way. So that's what I use.
Yeah, ditto.
And has anything scary ever happened to you while using your phone and driving?
Yes. Okay, once upon a time, I was texting and I look up and there's a deer and I had to slam my brakes and swerve. It was pretty scary.
Josh?
I think you were texting me when that happened.
All right, Mr. Nieto, do you ever text while driving?
I don't make a habit out of it, but I cannot tell a lie. I did once.
And did anything scary happen to you while you were texting?
No.
I'm Gracie Coy, and I am a senior.
And do you ever text while driving?
Sometimes.
And has anything scary ever happened to you while you were texting and driving?
I almost hit a car, and I had to swerve out of the way at the last moment. And then I tried to cut down on the texting and driving.
Hi, what is your name and what grade are you in?
Sarah Hager, and I'm a junior.
And do you ever text while driving?
No,
And why not?
because I do not want to get in a head-on collision.
Dakota Andrews, and I'm in grade 12. I'm a senior.
All right, do you ever text while driving?
Absolutely.
And has anything scary ever happened to you while you were texting and driving?
Absolutely not. I am a very cautious texter while driver. I only text at red lights, and if my speed isn't too high. And is my dad gonna be watching this? No. Okay, good. He'd be pissed. I only text if it's an emergency.
I'm Sean Burris, and I'm a junior.
And do you ever text while driving?
I have done it before.
And did anything scary happen to you while you were texting and driving?
No.
Hi, what is your name and what grade are you in?
Jerry O'Brayback, and I'm a senior.
And do you ever text while driving?
Yes, I do.
And has anything scary ever happened to you while you were texting and driving?
Not that I can recall. Generally, it is fairly distracting, I would say, and I guess I'm probably not the best driver, but I think that, I don't know, for me, I generally do it at stoplights, so I feel like that's safer, but I know it's bad and I shouldn't, but yeah.
All right, thank you, Dario. Wow, it's apparent from this video that a majority of high school students do text while they are driving. So Nate, what do you think when you see that film?
When I see it, it makes me pretty pissed because lots of people don't realize how dangerous it is, and putting themselves in danger is one thing, but when you text, you're putting everyone else's life in danger too. And I just think they don't understand how bad it is. Like, I think it's pretty easy for people to understand driving drunk is bad, but when you drive while texting, it's even worse, and people don't even realize it. Like, when you're driving drunk, your vision impaired, everything is impaired, but when you're texting, your vision isn't even there. And that's why all the people in the video were like, oh, I swerved at the last minute and stuff. The one girl, Dakota, oh my God, just people don't realize what they're doing is bad.
Definitely. So Jeff, as a high school teacher, are you shocked by the number of your students that text while driving?
Yes, I have to admit I'm really surprised. Part of being a high school teacher goes beyond just the curriculum and content in the textbooks and for the subject matter. Of course, we're trying to teach real-world skills on a daily basis, try to instill responsibility and character education, and seeing how many students are texting while driving, it's frustrating to me. I feel like it's something I would like the students to see this program and to certainly come to the assembly so they can understand fully exactly how serious it is when they text and drive. Of course, I've been driving for 30 years, and still to this day, I'm challenged all the time, challenged by surprises, unexpected things on the road, weather, light, dark, deer that come out, and I really kind of pride myself on focusing and concentrating all the time I'm driving. I couldn't imagine texting and driving or talking on a cell phone while I'm driving, because I really do feel that over the course of my life I've come to realize how important of a responsibility driving is, and I think it would be really important to share that lesson with our seniors and all newer drivers, teenage drivers. Seems like people are so into their cell phones and so into their texting that they can't seem to go even a few minutes without them. And this is one time where the phones just have to stay down.
So what do you think should be done about this problem? Do you think schools should get involved? Are there any solutions that you can think of?
Yeah, I really think it should be woven into the curriculum a little more regularly. Like any other safety issue, we have safety drills for fire drills and for lockdown drills for intruder on campus. It seems like we have health classes to try to teach students about good health practices and safe practices. Seems like this should be at least as important as some of the other strategies and lessons we're trying to teach our kids, life lessons certainly outside of the content. I'd like to see it woven into regular curriculum, absolutely. Certainly we're doing a start by producing this program, by having people like Nate come in and talk to our students and our seniors and juniors and new drivers, and see if we can certainly make them aware of the dangers of texting and talking on their cell phone while driving.
So Chelsea, what do you think your dad and stepmom would say right now?
I know exactly what they would say. They would say, well, first of all, that it's bad, but second of all, that teen drivers are pretty new drivers, so they don't even have experience driving. They hardly have that much experience driving. So texting while driving is a huge, major distraction. But also, even if you're an adult and you're texting while driving, you still are visually impaired because you can't see the road. And basically, they would they frown upon this.
Mm-hmm. Not to mention it's illegal. So Chelsea and Katie, as fellow high school students, does it scare you knowing that a lot of your peers are texting behind the wheel? Nate as well?
It definitely scares me because, well, you can be in the car with them and they can be texting and driving. You could get in an accident. You know, it's so mainstream and it's so bad, and it is pretty scary.
Of course, like Chelsea said, it's really scary. I mean, I know people drive all the time and they're not really focused, and then, I mean, to think when I'm in the car and I know my friends will be like playing with the radio, changing the song, texting, and they don't think about it, but they're putting so many lives in danger, and even yours, it's really hard.
It terrifies me. I mean, teenagers with a car is scary enough as it is. Teenagers with a cell phone, that's scary. Teenagers with a cell phone and driving, I can't even imagine it. So I just think they shouldn't do it. I mean, texting can wait. Your friends aren't going to care if you text them back in 15 minutes versus 5. So I just think they should wait, because I'd rather my friend have to wait for me to text back than have my friend wait for me to meet them in heaven or whatever.
All right, so in order to try to provide a realistic look at how difficult it is to drive while texting, all of us here today with 3 other Bear River students, Nate's mom and Chelsea's whole family, met at 49er Fun Park in Grass Valley to set up a driving experiment. Now, Nate, this is the 3rd time you've done this experiment at 49er Fun Park. You also did it with NU and Colfax, right?
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about how the experiment is set up and what goes on at 49er Fun Park.
So first, my mom and I go and call the 49er Fun Park people, and we figure out a time when we can reserve the track for the thing. And then we go there, they get the cars out for us, we get the cones ready, we get the stuffed animals and all the paper, and we get each other's numbers and our phones and stuff. And then when we go out and get the cars, and so first of all, it's like 2 people are in the car at once, and the person driving first does 5 laps while they're undistracted, and we tally the results from there. Then they do 5 laps while they're talking. We tally the results from that. And then they do 5 laps texting. And while they're doing this, every single lap they go around, we have people on the course that are moving around the cones every single time, so they can't memorize it. And we also have people with the cameras everywhere to try to videotape the people that are messing up, because it's bound to happen.
So Cameron Billingham also filmed our experiment at 49er Fun Park, and we would like to roll that film right now. Here at 49er Fun Park on a Saturday morning, there are some Bear River students here who are currently driving around the go-kart track with obstacles to see how they can drive while texting versus how they drive when they're not texting. They're currently driving without their cell phones. Then the next round, they're going to be driving while talking on their cell phones, followed by a round of texting, and then we're going to compare the results to see how they change.
Hi, what is your name and what school do you go to? I'm Jessica Solomon and I go to Bear River High School. And how long have you had your license? About a year. Do you text while driving? Occasionally. Do you think you're good at it? I'm pretty decent. And has anything scary ever happened to you while you've been distracted driving? A couple times I look up and I'm drifting off the road, but besides that, not that bad.
I'm Michael Collier, and I'm a senior at Bear River High School.
And how long have you had your license?
About 5 months now.
Do you text while you drive?
Yeah, I do. A lot, kind of.
Are you good at it?
I like to think so.
Has anything scary ever happened while you were texting and driving?
I mean, maybe 1 or 2 times, but not really.
I'm Nick Deltasandro. I'm a senior at Bear River High School, and I've had my driver's license for roughly a year and 4 months, let's say.
And do you text while you drive?
No, not. Okay, I'm lying. Yeah, I do quite a bit. Yeah.
Are you good at it?
Yeah. What can I say? Yeah, I'm pretty good. And there's no denying it.
Has anything scary ever happened while you were texting and driving?
No, not yet. I mean, let's hope not. So I'm pretty much flawless right now.
My name is Shelby Caro, and I'm a senior at Bear River High School.
And how long have you had your license?
About a year and a half.
Do you text and drive?
I don't regularly, but if I get a text message while I'm driving and it seems important, I usually reply, so every once in a while.
Do you think you're really good at it?
I've never made any mistakes, so for the most part, I feel like I'm good. It seems like it's easy to text and then still pay attention to the road.
Has anything scary ever happened to you?
The main problem is where I live, there's a lot of deer, so every once in a while, I'll look up from a text message and see that there's deer in the road or see that I'm drifting or something. Our first driver, Michael Collier, just got done completing his first few laps without texting and driving. Looks like he didn't make many mistakes, so we'll have to see how that compares to when he is using his phone. So, Mikey, you made 2 errors without any distractions, 7 while talking, and 17 while texting. How do you feel about that?
Well, I don't really know how to feel about it. I guess texting was a little distracting. I mean, I was obviously a total baller when I didn't have a phone. Just got unlucky. Just kidding.
So, do you think that you're going to stop texting and driving now after watching this experiment?
In all honesty, I probably won't. Probably going to do it a lot less.
Well, that's good. Thank you so much. All right, now we have Nick Alessandro, who is starting the first round of his texting and driving experiment.
If that was a person, they would have died right at the end. Like, there's no denying that.
Hey, I'm here with Nick Alessandro, who just got finished with his experiment. So how many mistakes did you make?
A lot. Definitely a lot more while I was texting and talking on the phone than without distractions.
And what's your reaction to this experiment?
Kind of shocked. I didn't think I would make so many errors, as I did. I definitely made 9 errors while texting, and that's horrible. So, I don't know, I'll probably stop texting after this, texting while driving, but it just kind of sucks, to be honest.
All right, well, thank you, Nick. All right, Jessica, you just got done with your round, so how do you feel about that?
I did pretty poorly. Didn't do that great.
And what's your reaction to this experiment?
I learned that I shouldn't text during when I'm driving because I hit a lot of things and killed about 7 bears, I think. So no more texting when I drive.
All right, thank you.
Okay, now our reporter is going to take a spin at it to see how hard it really is to drive distractedly.
I would stand in line for this. There's always room in life for this.
I just took my turn doing the texting and driving experiment, and I was really shocked. I made 22 errors while texting, which is very, very bad. I also was dragging teddy bears and dragging cones along. So I was just really shocked at how much harder it is to text while you're driving. I was just super distracted. I was hardly even looking at the road. I was way more interested in what my sister was texting me as opposed to watching the road, which should always be your number one priority while you're driving. So I think this experiment has helped me realize just how dangerous it really is while you're texting and driving. As you can see, I also took part in the driving experiment myself, and I did truly awful. I couldn't possibly pay attention to the road while texting or talking on my cell phone. I was trying to look at my phone, I was trying to see the upcoming obstacles, and at one time I even hit a stuffed bear that then drug around on the back of my go-kart for the rest of my laps at Fernando Fun Park. So this really helped me realize as well just how dangerous it is to text while you're driving. So Katie and Chelsea, you guys were both in the car with distracted drivers while you were tabulating their mistakes. Were you a little scared to be behind the wheel with somebody who was texting?
Yeah, it was totally scary. I mean, when you're in the car, you don't really think about it as much, but in that go-kart, we were so close to everything, and you just noticed every little mistake they did, like hitting the cones, and I mean, you can kind of just, when you're there, you just imagine yourself in the car, like a real car on the road, and you really see how bad it is. It's scary.
We also, besides sitting in the car, we moved around cones, and people almost hit us a few times. We almost were in the way of the cars a lot, and people that were texting and talking didn't even notice, so the last second we had to jump out of the way. So that was scary too.
Mm-hmm. So we have the results from that day that we tabulated, how many mistakes each person made without any distractions while talking on their cell phone and while texting. So Katie, why don't you share those results with us?
Well, actually, throughout the day, everyone was getting progressively worse, ending with you, of course. And while people were, while they were just driving normally, there's 1 to 2 mistakes, which is, kind of swerving off or something. And then when they were talking on their phone, there was an average of 6 to 8 mistakes. And then while people were texting, there was an average of upwards of 20 mistakes, which is really bad. I mean, especially because if you think really the 1 or 2 mistakes that were made while people were just driving not distracted, those were kind of like, they would kind of hit the side of a cone, but then most of the ones that were mistakes during the texting or talking on the phone were people spinning out or running over bears or hitting cones full on. And so it was really bad. And also, if you think about how bad this was, and this was on a day when the weather was fine and there was no rain or anything, and really bad still.
So Nate, what is your reaction to this video?
I think it's about normal because when your brain is undistracted and you just glance something, that's about normal. Like you hit a curb when you turn or whatever. But then when you're texting, your eyes aren't even there. So it makes sense why they hit the cone that was directly in front of them. Like, as in the people were saying in the video before, like how the deer was there and they had to swerve around, just like that.
So how did Bear River's results compare to Colfax and Nevada Union?
They were about the same. Like, NU was probably about like 1 to 2 also, and then maybe like 8 to 10, and then maybe even more than 20.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about the other components of the assembly that occurred at Nevada Union.
So first is Krista Baker, who did the assembly with me. So first she talks about like the statistics and whatnot, and then I go up and talk about my dad and my entire story, and I talk about the day that it happened and all the grief that I've suffered and whatnot. And then I tell like all the exact things and like that stuff. And then she talks more and we play videos. Then usually at the end of the assembly, we ask people what ways they can think of like to not get themselves distracted while they drive. Like people are like, put your phone in your glove box, put it in your trunk, turn it off. And then some people are like, give it to your friend. And then What I always like is people are like, use your Bluetooth. And then I always get to go up on stage and be like, well, talking on your Bluetooth is as bad as drunk driving, because it's true. And when you're talking on your Bluetooth, most people think that why it's bad talking on your phone is because you don't have your hand on the steering wheel because you're talking. But actually, it's because your brain is distracted.
So Jeff, what is your reaction to this video?
Well, I think my reaction is very similar to everybody else's. I realized just how much responsibility it takes to drive. Is seeing everybody spinning out and hitting all the cones and animals, stuffed animals, makes you realize just how hard it is to drive. I remember just going through with you when you were going through your driver's education program. It sort of made me realize something that I kind of take for granted and am used to is very, very challenging. And driving for teenagers, it's new. It's still not very much experience on the road. And when you combine that with the distractions, you're really dealing with fire. And so I wasn't surprised. I kind of knew there was going to be a lot of problems. And it proved it out.
So Chelsea, your stepmom, Heather Blancardi, just finished her first year as the community liaison for the CHP in Grass Valley. What is her role in Every 15 Minutes and the distracted driving assembly that occurred at NU?
Okay, well, Every 15 Minutes is an anti-drunk driving assembly. So it teaches about the dangers of drunk driving, and the reason it's called Every 15 Minutes is because every 15 minutes a drunk driver hurts someone, whether it's themselves or somebody that they hit with their car. And so the assembly, basically, people from our school are taken away to a camp, an overnight camp, and it's simulated that they've died in a drunk driving accident. And the next day they talk about their experience and how they won't drive drunk again, because how they realize that it affects their lives and their friends' lives, and how dangerous it really is once they learn all the statistics. So my stepmom coordinates that by choosing people to do that, and also she'll call, there's a helicopter, a live flight simulation, so she organizes a helicopter flight. She calls the fire department and other CHP officers to come simulate a crash, and she talks to the assembly too and tells statistics and stuff. And then with this assembly, we're going to show videos, and we're going to talk all on stage, but also she's going to tell us about how distracted driving is bad as well.
So Katie, you've seen 2 Every 15 Minutes assemblies at Bear River. I heard you had a reaction when comparing driving under the influence with driving on while talking on a cell phone. Why didn't you compare the 2 topics?
Well, last year we saw the Every 15 Minutes again, and it was still really moving. And I mean, a lot of people were crying, and it was really sad. But then, if you think about it, I mean, I know personally, I'm not drinking, and so there's never really a circumstance where I'm driving under the influence. So in a way, maybe it's not affecting me as much. But then I think about texting, and everyone texts. I mean, it's pretty common for everyone to have a cell phone nowadays. So texting while driving or distracted driving is way more common. And so it's just as bad, worse.
And tell us some of the details of the distracted driving assembly at Bear River. What are the next steps, and what is the date and location for that assembly?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, it will be on this upcoming January 25th. It will be during 3rd period at our school. And we're going to have kids from all ages from the classes come, but mostly the target audience of like seniors and juniors. We have a lot to do for that, making the script, and we're just going to make sure that everyone's going to be really educated, and that hopefully people coming out of that assembly will never text and drive again.
Excellent. So Jeff, what is next for the senior projects?
Well, let's see. The next thing, of course, are the mock interviews. That's where we're going to take the seniors through the practice interviews. Those are about 10 minutes long. The interviews are really about their actual lives, about their extracurricular activities, community service, maybe sports that they played, certainly about their favorite classes, what their future college might be and their major is going to be. So it's a chance for the seniors to really talk about themselves. The community members aren't trying to stump them in any way or try to make it extra difficult. The seniors themselves get dressed up very professionally and show up with a resume and cover letter in hand, and it gives them a chance to really feel what that's like. It's a tiny bit nerve-wracking. I kind of get this reaction from the seniors a lot of times. I've been doing this 7 or 8 years so far, this particular part of the senior project. And the reaction I generally get from the seniors goes something like this. They walk in and they say, Mr. Caro, I'm really nervous. I'm nervous about this. And then they walk out and they usually say, that wasn't that hard. That was actually really good. I got a lot out of that. The community member really helped us out and gave us a lot of pointers and tips in general about interviewing. Usually there's a little time, debriefing time at the end, where these community members, business owners and professionals and individuals that have a lot of experience with interviewing strategies will then talk to the entire group of students and explain to them some of the things they did well and some of the things they could improve on. So it's a chance for them to maybe raise the level of the quality of the way they interview for the students. And then, of course, be just monitoring all the students as they're getting their hours. I get hundreds of questions every week from students about hours, what counts, how does this work, how do I tabulate it, how do I verify it? And so it's just a management. I really am a coordinator. I'm just there. I have a team of teachers that help me with the senior projects. There are all the English 4 teachers that help me, and then I have the other government economics teachers, and so really I'm just part of a team that works through the senior project. Our English teachers have been doing all of the first semester work, and then it's going to come over to the government and economics classes to work through the hours. I get help from the principal, from our support staff. It's a real team effort, and I'm just there to help everybody do the best they can. And then we'll work our way to the speeches.
Excellent. And what are the dates for the final presentation?
The final presentations are May 22nd and May 23rd. We have a shortened schedule those days to prepare for the senior project. That's part of the team effort. The whole school is knowledgeable and aware of what's happening that day. We kind of have a minimum day, and the seniors have about an hour and 15 minutes from the end of the school day to when the presentations begin. And of course, they're in preparation mode. Their people have to pull up trailers and cars and projects that they need to show the panelists. They have to plug in PowerPoints and get the technology ready that they have to do. And of course, last minute sort of preparation, psyching up, as you might, for the speeches themselves.
How do students prepare for their speeches?
I think the number one way, of course, is write a good speech. That's what I tell my students, write a good speech. We have a rubric that has about 20 points on it, 20 different places that they're scored, and it's very important that they take plenty of time and write a good speech. Of course, it's just a description of their entire senior project experience, but they have to take it step by step. And then once they've written the speech, we go through a practice presentation. Some students actually get more nervous during the practice presentations. They give the practice speech in front of their class, the whole class. As I go through, it takes about 2 weeks to get through all of the students' practice speeches, as well as my colleague, Ms. Starr, who works the students through their practice speeches. And after each speech, I usually sit down with them specifically and give pointers and tips and help them through the rubric. And then on the day of the speech, of course, I spend about 6 weeks to 2 months getting the volunteers from the community. And on the day of the speech, we have a big check-in with all of the community members, probably around 75 or 80 each day. And the teachers, of course, are ready. About half the teachers go each day. There's one half of the senior class goes one day, and the other half goes the next. And essentially it comes down to individual classrooms, let's say 20 classrooms. In each classroom is six students and about 4 community members plus a host teacher. And the students then stand before the panel, starting with the first one. They give their speech, go through the audiovisual aid, a demonstration, talk about everything they gained from the experience, and then there's a question and answer session at the end of the speech in which they can talk freely, and the panelists actually have real questions and gives them a chance to clarify anything that they didn't get. And then, of course, afterward is really fun. We have a reception in our conference room, and the seniors all come in, and it is an incredible energy. If you can imagine, once you've cleared this last hurdle toward graduation, this is literally 6, 7, 8 days before graduation, school days, so to speak, and It is beautiful. It's a great place to be. I love that after speech vibe that happens in that room, and everybody's really, really excited and relieved and proud, and it's a nice place to be. So when that's done, we are pointing our way to what I always say, the Bear River football field and our beautiful graduation ceremony.
And what steps should community members take if they would like to get involved?
I think they should contact me directly, I think is the best step. Hopefully community members that see this would be excited and interested in helping out. The people that do the senior projects for us year in and year out always tell me, almost to a person, please call me next year. I really enjoyed this. I saw different projects that I saw from last year. You should have seen this person. They're telling me, giving me all sorts of feedback. So I get a whole bunch of really positive feedback from the community members. So, of course, they can call me at Bear River High School, which is 268-3700. My extension directly is 4553. And then my email is jcaro@njuhsd.com. And so get in touch with me, and I'll be sure and use you. There's really no limit to how many people I can have in the room on the panel. Be happy to have anybody out there who wants to get involved.
Thank you. So, Nate, what are your plans for next year?
Next year I'm planning on going to Sierra College and just taking some classes because I like being in this area, but I also want to get higher education. So.
Excellent. And Katie, tell us a little bit about your interests in extracurricular subjects.
Well, actually, I could talk for days on this. I love extracurricular activities because I feel like I'm getting a lot of, hands-on experience with things that I'm going to do for a long time after this. Every morning at about 6:30, I have a extra class, and that is a show choir where we sing and dance. And it's an audition group called Starlight. And so anyone should come see our performances at Bear River High School. I also do something called ASP, which is Advanced Studies Program, and we're involved in this thing called Odyssey of the Mind, and it's a creative problem-solving group, and we're in small teams of about 7 people, and we work hands-on all year, and we create our own skit with our own props, our own backdrop, our own costumes and everything, and that's a lot of fun. I've been working on that. Actually, I've been doing that since about 6th grade. So I've put a lot of time into that. I'm also in the Key Club because I love community service. It's great to give back. Every year we always do a river cleanup, which is one of the highlights of the year, and we get to help be a part of a national, actually, it's a national service day, and so we get to help save all the sea animals and stuff like that. I'm sure there are other things, but...
And what are your plans for next year?
I'm still waiting back, of course. Waiting to hear back from other schools, but I think I'm probably going to end up going down south, and I'm going to be going to a 4-year college, and I'm going to study business marketing because that marketing would probably be a good step for me.
And
applied to colleges in Southern California as well, and I want to go to Cal State Fullerton and study radio and television.
Excellent. Well, that's all the time we have for today. We would like to thank all our guests for children. We would also like to express our thanks for letting us use their go-karts and track to perform our driving experiment. They opened up early for us on a Saturday morning. Thanks again to Gail Woodman and NCTV for helping me with my senior project and for allowing us to share this important topic with the viewers. Finally, we would like to remind our entire audience, young and old, that driving is a great responsibility and demands our full attention. Please don't ever use a cell phone while driving. We have created a slideshow of photos from our day at 49er Fun Park that will be presented at the end of the program today. This has been Shelby for Nevada County Interviews. Have a great day.
And now, another fact of Congress.
Our country was founded on the principle of balance, that no branch of government could dominate another. For example, Congress is responsible for passing laws, but it's up to the president to okay them. The president nominates judges, but Congress must approve them. Judges can declare laws unconstitutional, but Congress can propose other ways of accomplishing the same thing. The president can veto